What's going on, everybody? Welcome to this episode here on Untainted Opinion. I am joined again by a South Florida detective slash law enforcement officer. He is a friend of mine. He is a good friend of mine, and I am glad to have him once again having a discussion about law enforcement. And just I have a few questions for him. Him and I actually had a conversation about law enforcement sometime, I think it was in 2020 or early 2021. I forget exactly when, but it's on the YouTube channel. You go check it out. I'll put the link down below. And we actually had two other discussions, and I am glad that he is joining me here on this third one. Just a disclaimer: if you happen to know who he is, please do not mention his name. Please do not shout out his name or anything like that, because he is anonymous for a reason. He has agreed to come have this conversation with me about law enforcement. However, he is still active in law enforcement, and according to his job, he cannot do this in this manner per se without going through some proper channels. So if you happen to know him, please do not shut out his name. Do not say who he is. I would highly appreciate that. But without further ado, Detective, thanks for joining me, man.
Hey, my pleasure, Dan. Always good to have some dialogue here and there.
Yeah, you can mention my name. It's okay. If everybody sees my face, it's okay. You can mention my name.
My bad.
No, it's all right. It's all right. No, well, this discussion, before we get to discussion, why don't you just give a brief, for those of you who haven't heard the previous conversation you and I had, for those who are new, why don't you go ahead and give a brief discussion, a brief description of your background and what your background in law enforcement is.
Been a cop here in South Florida now since 2005. So that's going on 16 years. I've done patrol work for a good 7 years or so. I've done crime suppression, which is kind of like a jump out squad. I did that for about 3 years, and then I've been in investigations for like the last 6 or so, give or take 5-6 years, whatever it's been. Pretty much all in South Florida, nowhere else. I did some state corrections as well. So that's pretty much my law enforcement background.
Yeah, I didn't know you did some state correction. That's pretty cool. You kind of have like an all-around type of deal there with detective work and crime suppression, just different, not just beat patrol, which is still great, and thank you for your service and all those years in the community.
Appreciate that.
And well, let's go ahead and jump into that, because since our last discussion, we talked about technology in affecting the police department. We talked about what new officers should be when they first come into the force. What should happen with new officers when they come into the force. We had a great discussion then. So this is kind of like almost like a part two type of thing. But since the last discussion, there's been a lot obviously going on regarding police and the private citizens per se. There's been a lot of negative and false reporting when it comes to policing and when it comes to the police force. Nobody's going to say that 100% of all officers are angels themselves, because just like in any profession, anywhere you go, there's always going to be that rotten apple somewhere in the profession there. But with set that aside, because I do wholeheartedly believe that 98-99% of officers out there are good, legit people, just wanted to do their job and wanted to do their job by the book. Okay, so but the mainstream media and social media, they'll all tell you that no, every cop has the potential to be bad. Every cop out there just wants to do harm and hunting down a certain race of people, and just has this complete negative light, because negativity sells, and that kind of things just puts eyeballs on screens, and eyeballs makes viewership that much more sexy. You don't hear about the good stuff. So when what you hear from fellow officers and fellow detectives, I know you still know people that still are on the beat and do patrol on a daily basis. When law enforcement officers, regardless of whether you're city, state, federal, when law enforcement officers are put under such a microscope and being falsely reported on daily, weekly, all the time, why should a law enforcement officer, how difficult is it for a law enforcement officer to do the correct thing every single time and not succumb to the pressure or just snap? How difficult is that?
I mean, today's world, it is more it's just that much harder to be a cop these days, because you're quickly judged, you're quickly labeled, you're quickly looked down upon by everyone that you come in contact with, regardless of whether or not you were dispatched to this call or you're just trying to have a friendly hello. Yeah, this profession has had his rotten apples over the last few years and whatnot. Um, but it doesn't that doesn't decide or doesn't speak for the, like you said, 98%, 99%, whatever numbers everyone wants to use of cops that actually want to come out here and do the right thing. So it has become harder and harder to do your job because everyone's quick to just want to use the slogan, "Don't shoot me, bro," when you're just trying to have a conversation with them, because we've had them. Even in my department, even in my town, where it's a small town, you wouldn't expect it. Just a few months back, that's the commentary you're getting as you're approaching people just to inquire as to what's going on, why are we being called here. um, I think a lot of it is, yes, media and news and social media have driven this hatred divide in this country, because it's what generates the attention and what generates the ratings and their profits and whatnot. A lot of it also is people just thrive on negativity. It's hard to give people compliments and praise people who are doing the right thing, but it's easy just to jump on bandwagons of being rude and disrespectful and being hateful towards cops. It's just the norm of society that cops aren't good for some apparent reason, and I understand it. I grew up in New York, where yeah, you don't like the police because they're always bothering you or what's considered harassing you. And a lot of people grow up with that mindset that the cops are here to bother, harass you, and ruin your day, ruin your fun. Um, but in today's society, I think it's more of people are really just enjoying that now. People are enjoying the negativity. I can give you a quick example where today alone there was a chase in
Yeah.
Broward County where multiple officers chased what I assume is a stolen vehicle. I don't know what the specifics are of that incident, but the suspect vehicle ended up crashing on its own. It
Hmm.
tried to suddenly exit and crashed and flipped over and hit, I think, two cars. The officers took four subjects into custody. No one was killed. No one was injured. No officer got injured either. So I simply posted on Instagram, "Great job by the cops."
Right.
And some random stranger saw my comment and just decided to come onto the Instagram page and reply to my comment and say, "Next time you should be hit." That's the level of ignorance that we live in today's society. Because my response is, why should I get hit? Because I'm saying that the jobs did a good job. Like, we're in a situation in society where good policing is not even wanted. Here you have a long chase on a crazy highway, multiple jurisdictions, and you manage to get four subjects in custody, no one injured or seriously injured, no one killed, and it was still not good enough. It still wasn't good enough for the job was done. And of course, the same people that are sitting here saying, "Oh, that was horrible, police, this, that, or you should have been hit," but had those subjects just terrorized one of their loved ones, all of a sudden they'd be praising the cops.
Yeah, I mean that actually was all caught. I was on 95 going, I forget if it was north or southbound on 95 up in Broward, and I happened to see I saw an hour later, like on YouTube, that somebody put like the whole thing, and it was caught. Choppers following it, and it was all caught. Basically, I don't know if it was on live TV, but it was
Yeah,
all
it was.
yeah. So I was like, oh my gosh, and I had people in my office just come around my computer screen, and we watched it a few times, and uh, because it was like it was crazy. I mean, thank God nobody got killed. Not even the suspect. Thank God nobody got killed. Thank God none of the innocent cars that were driving around, because that could have been a whole lot worse. And
Yep.
the cops quickly controlled the scene. They could quickly control there was four suspects in the car, and they quickly controlled that. They got them apprehended. They took care of the other victims that were that had the car damage and that were shook up from the accident. But you know I said to my two bosses that I work with, and I said, you know, and the people want to defund the police. Imagine how short they would be this could have been turned out. This could have turned out to be a whole lot different. You know,
Uh, Listen, when it comes to, yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you.
man, you could say something different, which is fine.
No, be honest with you. The general mindset amongst most senior officers these days is screw it. Let them commit the crime, let them get away and move on to the next day. Because, even if you are completing proper police tactics and experience and you manage to get a person in custody and take them to jail, it's still frowned upon. It's like you did something wrong or you did something bad when you took a subject into custody and you transported him to jail. So, there's a lot of pressure on politicians. There's a lot of pressure on commissioners and mayors and chiefs of police and command staffs to run tighter leashes on their officers. So when you're sitting here trying to do the right thing and trying to keep these cities safe, you're kind of stuck in a position where if you go a little above and beyond, you may be looking at a suspension, you may be looking at losing your job. It goes back to the old saying, is the juice worth the squeeze? Nowadays, a lot of cars, it's becoming more frequent not to stop for traffic stops.
Mm-hmm.
People nowadays are just taking off on cops because they know, number one, you're not authorized to chase. And they know in this society, you're definitely not going to be authorized to chase. So they'll take their chances. They just drive off. And you as the cop now has to look at this where 15 years ago, you would try to chase this person, take them into custody. Now you're just saying, all right, bye.
Mm-hmm.
Throw a bolo out there and call it a day. And the same mindset will go for violent felonies. You have a violent felon that manages to get into a car and starts driving off. You literally, cops now are weighing their options. Do I chase this guy and risk getting into an accident and risk using force, risk possibly getting into a shootout where I'm going to get in trouble, I'm going to get arrested, I'm going to get laid off, I'm going to lose my job? Or do you just let them drive off?
Mm-hmm.
It's sad, but the whole movement of defunding and the whole movement of cities wanting to decrease police force, you're going to end up with cities just policing themselves. That's
Well,
just that's what it's going to boil down to.
yeah, it's interesting you say that because one thing I was going to bring up was, in New York, Chicago, Seattle, LA, Atlanta, you have cops that are leaving the force in droves, taking early retirement or just outright just leaving the force because, they're being hung out to dry. They're being used as the scapegoat. Their police chief doesn't seem to have any of their back. The mayor, for sure, is being politicized up the yin yang in all these cities, and we know which way politically these cities lean. It's not a political discussion, but you could just those cities that I mentioned are all bleeding police officers. They're severely short-staffed. There's severe shortage because now that they ran the whole defund the police thing, and the mayors don't have the back, the governors don't have the back. So these police officers are like, why am I going to put my life on the line and put my family at risk if I'm not going to, if my boss is my chief is not going to have the back? And now all of a sudden, now they want to refund everything. Now all of a sudden they want to pump in another 30 million just to rehire officers. And it's like, my question to you is, why should somebody become a law enforcement officer given the environment that officers are now facing these days with the vilification of these officers? Even if somebody does 100% right, there's video behind it, everything is 100% justified, it's caught on tape and everything, but no matter what, the cop is going to be wrong in the eyes of the public court. It doesn't matter because it's been groomed into so many people's minds that the cop is the villain, the cop is wrong no matter what. And the vilification of the cops is gone to a point where we're having these shortages. And why should a cop want to take a call? Why should a cop want to take a call on every single situation, on every single thing, other than they have a heart to do it, and because that's something they love to do. But like you said, they're going to start weighing their options. Like, should I take this call? Should I do it this way? I'm just going to have to let certain things go that I would normally in the past would arrest or put in handcuffs or whatever, or do something different. Why should a police officer or a law enforcement officer, do more things by the book if they're just going to be vilified for still doing the right thing?
Well, for starters, to answer your first question, is I actually try to tell everyone not to be a cop these days. People that come up to me about trying to be a police officer, inquiring about pursuing that career, I honestly try to talk them out of it. I try to push them more towards firefighting, becoming an EMS paramedic, firefighter, something like that, or go back to school and get a degree. Policing is a profession that's going to struggle and it's going to hurt over the next 10, 15 years, maybe at least 10. It's a profession that is not a dying breed because you're always going to need cops, but it's a profession that a lot of good people are not going to want to become cops because of what you said. It doesn't matter how good of a job you did in the public's eyes, you're always going to be a villain. Um, the sad part is that because of all this national incidents that have been going on, you know, more and more departments are buying into body cameras.
Right.
And the body cameras are good and a bad, and I'll explain to you both.
Okay.
It's a good in the sense of it clears a lot of false allegations against cops and a lot of false media release of immediate innocent people getting killed when the reality comes out with a body camera that there was weapons and there was incidents that occurred. But it's bad for the individuals on the street that most cops would give breaks to on certain incidents like minor drug possession or driving with a suspended license and stuff like that, where now you're on body camera. I can't give you those breaks. So whereas 3, 4, 5 years ago, if you got caught driving with a suspended license and you're not supposed to be driving the car after they give you a couple of tickets, and 5 years ago you used to tell the person like, "Hey, get out of here, get home safe, but don't continue to drive." Now, because you're on body camera, you can't give that person that option anymore. So now this individual is looking at a couple of tickets and their car getting towed. Whereas a couple of years ago, they were just looking at a couple of tickets that once you get your new license, get dismissed in court. Same thing goes for minor drug offenses. In today's world with body cameras, if you have a little bit of weed, I'm sorry, buddy, but you got to get, or not really weed because weed's getting legalized, but let's say you have a couple of unprescribed pills.
Right.
A couple of years ago, those would be flushed down the toilet. Get the hell out of Dodge, because hey, we're not in the business to screw people over. We're here to catch bad guys. Just because you have a couple of unprescribed pills, it is what it is. But nowadays, because you're on body camera, because you don't want to be caught with your pants down when someone says, "Hey, you let that go." Sorry, buddy. 2 pills is going to take you a ride to jail. It's not my choice. I have a camera that's not going to allow me to give you that discretion anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So, do I think people should be cops? Hell no. What's the perk of being a cop these days? You can go out there with the best heart in mind, like most cops do, and be in justified situations and lose your job.
I think one of the good things about the body cams is, yeah, like you said,
I
it
think
does.
check
Yeah,
or how long until
okay, go
your
ahead, go
case
ahead.
is resolved in the court system, or
Right.
they handle their internal investigation, and that can go months. That's not something that happens in days or weeks. That can go months. So now you have an officer that's done a great job, and he's without a check and without employment for 6 months, 7 months, 8 months. Who knows?
Yeah, one of the good things about having a body cam is that, as you said, it does help clear the officer of any potential wrongdoing, because the evidence on the video shows everything from the body cam or multiple body cams from the officers who were out there. But it makes it's still. I still have yet to see a point. I still have yet to see a time where an officer is involved in a shooting, especially when it becomes a white cop and a black victim, especially when that happens, or a black suspect, especially when that happens, does, in the court of public opinion, that white cop is automatically guilty. No matter what, that cop is automatically guilty, even if a day later, an hour later, social media is already caught on fire with whatever the event happened, and the body cam could come out with the most clear, uh, vindication of that officer, but there's always gonna be those with the loudest megaphone for some reason saying how guilty that white cop is, and everything is racist. And it just goes to the point where it's like you said, why become a cop? You shouldn't become a cop. And I know that's probably hard for you to say because you spent the last almost 2 decades in this profession, and you want people to become cops and become good cops, but you know like you said, in this day and age, the vilification just doesn't outweigh the potential good of a cop you can be.
No, the juice is not worth the squeeze, and you're right. I mean, even with clear cut video of an officer using deadly force on the best scenario, which was that 16-year-old girl that went to stab that black female against the car, it was less than 12 seconds that this officer had from the time he arrived to decipher what's going on, to pull out his gun and shoot 3, 4 rounds into her as she was getting ready to stab a girl with a knife, all on body camera.
Yep.
And one of the biggest names in this country, LeBron James, who was quick to comment on that incident, who quickly retracted his comment when he realized how much of a fool he looked like, to this day never apologized to that cop. To this day has never made a public apology towards any law enforcement officer. In fact, I think he actually put bullseyes on most cops because of the influence that he can generate from his fans. This officer did nothing wrong. I don't care who you are. I don't care if this girl was 10 years old or 60 years old. The fact of the matter is, she grabbed a knife in body camera and went to stab some other lady. The officer reacted in less than 15 seconds and did what he had to do and what he's trained to do and the right thing to do, which is preserve life. I mean, I don't understand what else was this officer supposed to do. Was he supposed to wait for her to stab the lady before he can potentially finally shoot? I mean,
He,
I
he's
don't
he's
understand
in
what
a,
people
he's in a
want.
no-win situation. In the court of public opinion, he's in a no-win situation. Do I neutralize the threat, or do I just let it happen because I don't I'm a white cop that could potentially take a black life, even though that black life is about to take another black life. It's like, obviously he's not thinking about that at the time because he's doing what he's trying to do and the reaction he's trying to do, but it's like a no-win situation.
But kudos to the cop. He knew
Yeah,
what the right thing was, and he took action
absolutely.
and allowed to happen whatever happens down the road, because he knows at the end of the day he made the right choice, and he did.
He did.
And every police officer in this department, my former department, and every department around me is going to say officer did exactly what he was supposed to do. But the problem that we will continue to have is, where is the public accountability?
Yep.
Where are the people coming out and holding these individuals accountable for their actions?
Yep.
You can't justify a girl in front of a cop running up to another girl with a knife about to stab her, who just now gets shot, as improper actions on the cop. You can't explain how a guy fights 2 cops, steals a taser, and shoots it at a cop's head, and the cops made a decision. Where's his accountability?
Hmm.
Where's the accountability of some of these individuals that unfortunately got killed fighting cops with weapons and whatnot, and expect that the cop was supposed to be Superman and take a bullet? The kid in Chicago, clear cut video of him tossing a gun. The officer had less than 5 seconds to decide what he had to do at that moment and shoot.
Less than 5 seconds.
And shot one time, if you notice. He didn't shoot multiple rounds, he shot one round. So where is everyone's going to be quick to say, well, why didn't he tase the kid? Why did he have to shoot? Okay, well, let me start with the first domino. What is this 15, 14, 13-year-old kid doing out on the street
Correct.
at 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night? Even more importantly, why is he running with a gun?
Correct.
Where are the parents?
Correct.
Where is this people's adult supervision?
Correct.
But no, it's automatically, oh, the cop jumped the gun, killed another. Why? Until that starts changing, where you start having mature minds that can sit here and say there's accountability on public's on the public's part when it comes to interactions with cops. I'm not saying that you act a fool, you're going to get killed. No,
Mhm.
but there is a level of compliance that is expected from police citizen interactions.
Yep.
And when you make decisions, there are going to be repercussions. And unfortunately, like I've said before in the past, we are not anyone's doormat. We're not anyone's punching bags. We're not anyone's targets to shoot at. We are here to help save and protect and keep people from being victims of crimes. That includes ourselves. That includes protecting ourselves from being victim of a crime. People don't want to understand that. So until that starts changing, where people can start holding people accountable for their actions, and you have these major media uh, personnel, these athletes that can come out and say, "Hey, that girl messed up. She should have never charged that lady with a knife. The
Yep.
cop was on the scene. She should have just gone to the cop and explained to the cop what's going on." Then this problem's never gonna get fixed in America.
That's correct.
You you can't have a guy that has multiple forcible felony warrants in a car about to run over cops to get away and get shot, and it's the cop's fault.
Yep.
How is that the cop's fault? He knows he has multiple felony warrants. He knows that they're trying to arrest him. He knows he's about to go to jail. He's trying to leave and hit several cops in the process. And the prosecutor comes out and says that the officers were justified. So explain to me, where's the driver's accountability? You're the one with the warrants. You're the one knowing you're going to go to jail. You're the one behind the wheel of that car. It's very simple. Turn off the car, exit with your hands up, get arrested.
Hmm.
You put yourself in that situation. Guess what? You'd be sitting there facing a jury right now.
Yep.
But until that public accountability starts happening, we're never going to rectify this problem. It's always going to be cops are the villains, cops jumped the gun, cops did the wrong thing, another innocent victim killed, another Harvard graduate killed, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
So basically, here's gonna be the last question for this conversation. Okay. Uh, One of the things that I think could dramatically decrease all the tension, decrease the amount of negative press, that could really decrease a lot of things that are happening in society today, is the increase of the public in the way they interact with law enforcement officers. Okay. And the way they approach them, the way they speak to them, the way they abide by what the officer is saying. Because everybody wants to be, not I wouldn't say everybody, but so many people want to be uh, acting like they know more than the cop, or that, all of a sudden they're Johnny Cochran, on the side of the road, you know, and they don't realize, hey, whether the cop is right, whether the cop is wrong, okay, and I know I'm right and I know the cop is wrong, trying to plead your case in front of the cop is really not going to be the right place. You could do that in front of a judge. You could have your time in court if it goes that far. Um, so I think if the public were to actually abide by what the cop is saying, just follow direction, 99.9% of these, shooting incidents could probably disappear altogether. And so my question to you is this. I'm going to give you the floor right now, and I want you to give your public service announcement, your PSA to the public. And I want you to say, hey, this is how you should interact when an officer gives you direction, when an officer pulls you over, when an officer is talking to you and giving you direct and giving you instructions. Here's what you need to do, and how you can make both your days, and especially your day, even though It's sometimes a shitty interaction. Sometimes it's it's going to make you mad, but in the end, everybody's going to go their separate. Everybody's going to go their separate ways. What is your message to the public when it comes to interacting with law enforcement officers?
I mean, for starters, you're talking about changing cultures. It's no secret. I grew up in Queens, New York, being obviously Hispanic. In my culture, whenever we were kids, or whenever my siblings had kids, or whenever we see people with kids and the kid is misbehaving and they see a cop in the area, the first thing that the parent tells the kid is, "You want me to call the cops so they can take you to jail? You want me to call the cops so they can arrest you?" And you're telling this to a young child, and
Yep.
you're instilling in their head that the cop is a bad guy. He's taking me to jail. He's gonna punish me. And that really boils our blood, because we put ourselves in Disney with a 4 or 5 year old kid that just ran away from mom and dad, and we're here to try to help them. This kid's gonna run from us, because if all he's been told since he was a kid is that cops are bad and cops are gonna arrest you and cops are gonna take you to jail, then how do you expect this kid at 5, 6 years of age to want to come to a cop for help? So all that stays in their mind. In the African American community, it's the same concept. Cops are bad. Cops are here to, mess your day up, whatnot. Okay, so when you're young and that's what you're being instilled about police officers, then how do you expect to outgrow that when you get older? The reality is that cops are just human like everyone else. Okay, yeah, most of us are lazy. We don't really want to do much work. We want to just knock out 2 or 3 tickets, keep the command staff happy, handle calls of service, and go home.
Mhm.
Majority of cops don't really want to go out there and just crack people's heads down. Those days are over. So compliance and understanding. And how about this? Let's not call it compliance. Let's call it a mutual respect for one another.
Yep.
You want to be treated with respect, and you should give respect.
Yep.
You start thinking that way and you start acting that way, then you're right. I would say over 95% of these incidents don't even happen.
Yep.
They don't happen. I can go back to all the early incidents of the Eric Garners and whatnot. You know, if I remember correctly, I don't know if Eric Garner was the individual, I think in Louisiana, that was selling CDs in a gas station. Is that the one?
Was
The
Eric
head.
Gardner in New York doing the Lucy, like the cigarette thing, or I can't remember which?
Yeah, I think he was or is that the one? That was the one in New York, was the cigarette thing, the guy selling cigarettes in New York.
Yeah, there's so many things that's happened. I kind of cross
Well,
reference myself.
I'm referring to the individual with the CDs at the gas station, and he was in possession of a gun, and he fought the 2 cops. And
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
I forgot. I thought his name was Eric Garner. I might be wrong.
I don't know if it's Eric Gardner. I could be wrong too, but off the
No,
top of my
you're right. I
head, I
think
didn't need to talk about
Eric Garner was the New York incident with the cigarettes. Okay, that was Eric Garner. I can't remember the gentleman's that passed away, and I think it was Louisiana, where he was at a gas station selling CDs. The gas people attendant called the cops. The cops approached him because he was selling the CDs, and his issue was he was in possession of a gun, and he was a convicted felon. So he knew, I'm going to go to jail because I have a gun on me, and I'm a convicted felon. But guess what? He chose to fight 2 cops.
Yeah, Alton Sterling.
Alton Sterling, there you go. He chose to fight those 2 cops. The cops aren't trying to fight you. Listen, we're here for a bullshit selling CDs on the corner.
They would have
Okay.
probably just told the guy, "Hey, just move on, just get out of here." type of thing.
Yeah, it was like, okay, so we need to check you out, make sure you're legit, make sure you don't have the warrants. And that's when the guy started getting froggy or suspect or shady or uncomfortable. And when the cops started realizing this, and now they say, okay, we have to put this guy in handcuffs for our safety because he's acting a little unusual. Because obviously he knows he has a gun, but the cops don't know this. So when the cops are using their hair on the back of the neck standing up senses and says this guy's acting a little jitty, let's cuff him to calm him down so we're all safe. The guy starts fighting the 2 cops, And during the fight, the guy keeps reaching towards something in his waistband or pocket, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And one of the cops feels the gun and yells it to the other one. He's got a gun. He's got a gun. He's got a gun. At that point, you're thinking deadly force. This guy has a gun. He's constantly reaching for it. If he's reaching for it, it's not because he wants to show it to you and put it down. It's because he's most likely going to use it on one of us. So they had no choice but to use deadly force. Now, let's think about this from the beginning. You got called there for something stupid like someone selling CDs in the parking lot. Okay, you arrive and the guy tells you, yeah, I'm selling CDs to make ends meet because I don't have a job and I make money like this. Cool. We have to run you and make sure you're good. You have any weapons on you? Guess what, man? Just be an adult about it. I do have a gun. I have it for my safety because I deal with cash. I'm a convicted felon. You know, as a convicted felon, you shouldn't have a gun. So you know what you do at that moment? You take your blows. Oh, well, I made the choice to be a convicted felon with a firearm. So you know what? Let me go before a judge. Let me go before a jury. Let me plead my case and hope that I win.
Yep.
That's all we would ask for. We don't want to fight you. We don't want to sit here and throw the book at you. No, 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 no. You chose to be a convicted felon with a firearm. As much as I understand why you have the firearm, because you are on the streets dealing with cash money in a time of need and you might get robbed. I get that. I understand the need for it. But at the end of the day, you're not licensed to carry and you are a convicted felon. You knew you were violating the law. You knew you were going to go to jail. You chose to start fighting two cops.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not saying that every incident is like this, but a lot of incidents is public accountability.
Yep.
He's the one that decided to fight two cops knowing he was in possession of a gun as a convicted felon. Cops didn't know any of this because they didn't know who they were dealing with to begin with.
Mhm.
So if you sit here and you can sit down and think about this, the officers were just trying to handcuff him because he was getting froggy, what they call froggy, jitty, giddy, whatever you want to use.
Mhm.
Well, he knew why he was getting uncomfortable. Cops didn't know. They were trying to figure out, why is this guy getting uncomfortable? So what's the next course of action for the cops? If the guy doesn't want to get restrained and he starts fighting, well, we have to go hands on now. And during the hands-on encounter, we realize this guy's reaching for something in his pocket. And when the officer feels, he feels the gun and says, hey, this guy has a gun. Well, we're very limited at that point in choice and options. Not only was Alton Sterling a very big guy, he was strong.
Mhm.
And you had two officers that couldn't even control him. So what needed to happen? Were the cops just going to back off and tell him, hey, buddy, just get out of here because you have a gun and we don't want? No. You have to now take action for public safety. But
Yeah.
the bottom line is, like I tell a lot of my friends, was where's his accountability?
Yeah.
Where are the repercussions to his actions? Because that's what happened. The actions that the officers took were based on his decisions, his choices.
Choice.
Cops didn't walk up to him at the gas station and say, hey, you're selling CDs, so we're going to kill you. Boom, boom. No, it was his decision to be with a gun as a convicted felon, to fight two cops, and ended up 6 feet under, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. With culture, it is definitely a culture thing that has been cultivating. It just that doesn't happen just in one generation. It happens over, multiple generations, and it is a culture thing, and it is a choice thing. And I always say it all starts in the home. It all starts
100%.
somewhere in the home. And
It does. I mean, when you look at most Hispanic culture for the most part, most Hispanic countries, cities, um, a lot of their police departments are crooked,
yeah,
shady,
yep,
corrupt cops. So
right,
that's what they're engraved as kids. Don't trust the cops. The cops are shady. The cops are crooked. The cops are thieves. The cops are killers. Then you come to the state, and where now you see cops as they're the ones that are going to punish you. They're the ones that are going to arrest you. They're the ones that are going to take you away from us. So if you're a Hispanic kid, that's all you keep hearing about police officers, and how are
Hmm.
you going to grow up to respect and understand a police officer? And the same thing goes for black neighborhoods. It's low income, it's poverty, a lot of drugs, a lot of crime, a lot of activities. So you need a lot of police presence. So when you're a kid watching this and seeing cops have to do jobs and take bad guys to jail, and there's sometimes shootings and whatnot, your perception of a cop is they're bad people. If you go into white neighborhoods where it's poverty, trailers, and stuff like that, it's the same mindset. That's what you're instilled. Hip hop music, rap music, it's all about violence. It's all about hating the cops. It's all about drugs. It's all about this. It's all about that. That's all influencing these young kids, and that's what they're taking to adulthood. So
And
until that point,
one thing that the rap music and these rappers and they talk about the drugs and the money and the streets and all that stuff, you could take, you know, show me one rapper that's worth, that has $1 million+ in the bank, or has, makes millions a year or whatever on their music and touring, that actually still lives in the ghetto, still lives in the hood.
none.
None. They all live where? In the rich upper urban, white neighborhood where it's safe
Yeah.
and gated communities and everything. They're not living where they're not living where they're rapping about what happened, in the past and what they grew up in. But it's like what Diddy said in that movie Notorious. That he's like my business is about the streets, but my business isn't in the streets, and
Mhm.
that's true. And it all starts in the home. It all starts with a home training. It all starts with how parents are raising their kids.
Listen,
And
you as an individual have to outgrow that.
absolutely, absolutely. And
And until that starts happening, things are never going to get better. And I can use one football player that's the best prime example, which is Michael Vick. Michael Vick grew up in the hood, in the ghetto, in the suburbs. I mean, in the ghetto, in the rough neighborhoods, poor. And this was a promising athlete, but he didn't disconnect. He didn't choose a different path when he had the opportunity to. He continued to stay with his childhood friends, the people he thought were his family, whatnot. And look what it ended up with his career.
yeah,
He ended up losing his career, ended up serving whatever it was, 5, 7 years in prison, lost millions of dollars in NFL and endorsements and stuff, all because he did not outgrow his upbringing,
yeah,
period. And until people start growing up and realizing this, and it's hard because we all, again, you and I and most of my family and our family and friends grew up in the hood, and you don't want to turn your back on people in the hood, but at some point in your life you need to understand, I need to start making better choices, better decisions, better people around me that are not going to jeopardize what I've worked so hard for.
yeah.
You know, you got Little Wayne, who was saved by a cop as he was dying. Little Wayne doesn't bash on cops. He doesn't hate cops because he comes out and tells you, I was saved by a white cop.
Hmm.
I was shot in the chest and I was saved by a white cop. He saved my life. I'm here because of him.
Hmm.
Okay. But yet I don't see anyone else praising Little Wayne for that. I don't see anyone else coming out here and saying Little Wayne is good people because he said that. I don't see people rapping about that because it's not what's taught. It's not what's cool. It's not what's popping. It's not what's hot. It's not what you should be doing. You should be doing the opposite.
I
And
think the key words from this discussion is accountability, culture, parents, choices. Those are the key words that you and I have repeated during this discussion, and about those key words and how that alone could just change. Starting in the home with the parents and the kids and teaching them right from wrong. And hey, if a police officer stops you or pulls you over or comes and talks to you, just shut your mouth, listen, comply with whatever commands they have, and if you think you're right, wrong, whatever, have your day in court. You could sue the police department. You could there's options at your disposal other than trying to fight a police officer and thinking you're big badass Johnny Cochran on the side of the road.
you have options. I know it's
Definitely options.
crude to tell people just shut your mouth and comply, but I like to say more of just don't have a debate on the side of the road with a cop. We're not here to be the jury. We're not here to be the judge. We're not here to be the executioner. Trust me. Most cops or all cops want to go through their careers without ever having to draw their gun or shoot it at that. But all you have to do is just be professional, be polite.
Hmm.
Okay, we're not here to argue with you. If a cop stopped you because he says you ran the stop sign and you feel you did not run the stop sign, that's okay. Go to front of the judge, go in front of the jury, and tell them, explain to them your case. And if you win it in court, no hard feelings. Have a good day. If you lose it, pay your fine. It is what it is. But to start having a back and forth with an officer on the street, because I've been there. Recently, just a few months back, I had a young black individual who happened to run a stop sign as he was blowing the horn. So I stopped him. And then I started getting accused of being a killer and I wanted to shoot him and I wanted to kill him and that I was wrong and that I'm racist. And I'm looking at this kid like, bro, I actually didn't even want to give him the ticket. I just wanted to tell him like, hey, just cut the horn out and just stop at the stop sign next time. But once he became a little dick, then I was like, you know what? Now you're gonna get the ticket because where I just wanted to tell you, like, hey, bro, just slow down, give people some space, don't blow the horn. Like, I know we're all in a rush. Everyone's trying to get home. It's 5:30 in the afternoon. I get it. But now you're calling me, I have all the power to kill you, and I'm trying to kill you, and then I'm racist, and then I'm just that I lied, he never run the stop sign. And I'm like, well, you know what? Now you're getting your ticket.
Yeah,
One way or the other, you're gonna get the ticket.
there's a former cop that I'm a big fan of, and I shared a lot of his material with you as well, Brandon Tatum. He's a former cop from Tucson, and he said in the past when he was policing, he was on doing the patrol and whatnot. He goes, 99% of the time, 99.99% of the time, I'm not going to give a ticket. Just be cool with me. Just be cordial. Be polite. 99% of the time, I'm not going to give you a ticket. We'll just be cool. Go on your way. Whatever. I'll say what I got to say. That's it. But if you're like you said, if you're gonna be an a-hole, you're sure as hell gonna get the ticket.
But
And that's
you
how
know,
the
we
police officers are.
we have a saying in law enforcement, and this is actually true. Over 95% of people who get tickets talked themselves into a ticket.
Yep.
Over 90% of people that got arrested talked themselves into getting arrested.
Yep.
The reality is that you're right. We don't want to give people tickets. We just want to engage the community, educate the community, cut people breaks, because we don't want to write. It's annoying to write 5, 6 tickets a day. Kills your wrist, kills your hand. We really don't want to do it. And we also understand, believe it or not, especially now during COVID, that a lot of people lost their jobs. Tickets are not cheap. You're talking about $290, $300 for certain tickets. And we don't want to screw people over with those fees, those fines. So when we do pull you over, 95% of the time is just to have an encounter and tell you, like, hey, you didn't stop at the red light. You didn't stop at the stop sign. Okay, just to educate you, like, be careful of how you're driving. But you come out with that attitude, you come out with that snappiness, you come out with that demeanor, you just bought yourself the ticket. Because at that point, oh, I don't care about writing this ticket anymore because you're just being an a-hole. Instead of just being appreciative that the cop just wants to tell you, hey, slow down some. Oh, my bad. I'm just trying to get home. We all are trying to get home. We understand rush hour traffic. We're all human. But if you want to come out with, I didn't do anything wrong. Why are you stopping me? Oh, excuse me? Like, that's how you're going to open this encounter? Let me have your license. No, I didn't do anything wrong. Okay, well, if that's the route we're taking, then you're going to earn your ticket. And the more you keep that attitude up and any other violation that I was going to give you a break on, now you're getting the ticket. It wasn't the cop that was being the asshole. You were being the asshole, and that's what you got in return. 4 or 5 tickets, whatever it was that the infractions are. And what people fail to realize is that none of that would have happened if you would have just told the officer, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize it. Here's my paperwork. Guess what? Now, if we give you the ticket, most cops are going to feel like shit because they're like, damn, this guy was straight up with me and I'm still giving him the ticket.
Mhm.
And even then, you'll still probably get told, hey, take it to court. That is code for I'm going to dismiss it in court. Just take it to
I'm
court.
not gonna show up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But when people start having the what we call the street trial, well, we're not here to have a trial, buddy. We're not the jury, we're not the judge. We really don't care what you have to say. Take it to the people that matter. It's not us.
Yeah.
We're just here to enforce the law. Here's the law you violated. Now take it to them, argue with them. I don't care. But yes, most people, majority of people talk themselves into tickets and talk themselves into getting arrested. Where we just want to go to few situations, no crime was broken. No, okay. You guys go your merry way. There's always someone that wants to just keep hyping it up and keep hyping it up, and he doesn't want to listen. Bro, go on your merry way until he gets to a point where, oh, now you're refusing to leave. Okay, now you're coming with me.
I know you and I, we could talk about this for hours, and we have in the past. We've literally got to about 3 or 4 in the morning in the past about talking all this. But we're gonna end this particular discussion here because I got a lot more questions for future discussion. I think next
Okay.
time we're gonna try and do this on YouTube Live. But we're gonna go ahead and end the discussion right there because we could definitely go on about this for hours and days on end, and we'll.
Sounds good, my brother. Listen, whenever you want to do this, I've always told you I'm open to this. The more people you can get involved to have more open dialogue with community members, I'm always open to it. I think we need a lot more of this. I think we need a lot more of cops engaging in people and questions. And I think a lot of the issues we have is obviously culture differences, but a lot of people don't realize the job that we do. A lot of people don't realize. Everyone thinks that a cop just hangs around donut shops and does nothing all day long, and don't realize that cops are targets. It's a daily stressor of not knowing if you're going to get ambushed, attacked, or whatnot on a regular basis, just for sitting in your car and being in a police car. So again, always good to do these things. Whatever questions you or any of your followers may have, feel free to shoot them to you, and I'll answer them. I don't shy about being direct and being honest as to what the right, wrong, or answer is.
Yeah, anybody listening to this, I really appreciate it if you made it all the way through. I'm sure this is about an hour long conversation, give or take, because during the officer in here and I, we could definitely go a long way here and talk about this for hours. But leave your questions down below. Put it in the comment section. What you like, what you agree with, what you didn't agree with. Leave your comments down below. Leave your questions down below because we're definitely going to be back for another segment here, talking with a South Florida law enforcement officer, a good friend of mine, somebody who I've known for I don't know, it's gone on for maybe 2 decades here, give or take. I don't know, give or take.
Longer than that now.
It hasn't been it's been like since like 2000, 2000, somewhere around there. It's been because we go back to playing the basketball and football days, but we actually have another good friend of ours is actually he's in law enforcement as well. He started a lot like in patrol and doing detective work, and now he's doing something else in law enforcement. But I hope to be able to get him on the line here too, and maybe have a 3 or 4 way discussion. If you know anybody that wants to be part of this, hey, I'm open to it too because I love having these kind of discussions and having this kind of open forum type of thing. But with that being said, I really appreciate you coming on. I appreciate everything you do for the community and keeping it safe. And God bless and stay safe, brother.
Yeah, you too, brother. Be safe. Have a good night.
I appreciate it.
Later, homie.